Hey, what's up? It's Paul from Guitar World, and I'm here with the man who needs no introduction, Mr. John Petrucci. And we're here celebrating his 20 years with Ernie Ball Music Man with his brand new models, the 20th anniversary Ernie Ball Music Man John Petrucci model over here, and the Majesty 20th anniversary over here. Throughout the years in your career, your style and what you want has changed, and that I find is reflected in your guitars. Mm-hmm. Do you still feel there's a need to edit or add more? I mean, now that it's out, I mean, yes, it's out and you want to sort of promote this, but
right.
do you think about the future and how this will evolve even more?
Right. I think that the way that we evolve these guitars together and the decisions that we made along the way and the changes and experiments, and there were so many. Mm-hmm. Some were in the form of prototypes that never saw the light of day. Some were in models that we put out that were simply like, what would this guitar feel like with a 20-inch radius? You know, and like the guys at Music Man are like, yeah, like, well, let's do it. And they'll build some new piece of equipment to do it, and we'll try it. And it's like, well, that was cool, but I'm not sure. I might like it better at 17. You know, and then the next one will change. Fret material, fret size, all these different things. What I'm trying to say is that we kind of got it to the point where between the JP6, the JP15, which isn't here, and the Majesty, we really perfected the design, all of the details, the appointments, the materials, the locations, the angles. It's like, it's not going to get any more perfect than that. That's the no answer. Like, do I think about other things? These things are like thought out to the fullest, and we're not going to get better. But my mind is always thinking.
Sure.
And I do have different ideas that will come up, and you'll see those ideas in some form or another in the future.
I will touch on that. I will touch on that later in this interview. But
okay.
What I'm curious is that what you've established is basically Ernie Ball Music Man are willing to go down the rabbit hole with you.
They are more than willing.
And my question to you is, how far is it overload for you? Are you willing to go that far down the rabbit hole?
Oh man, as far as we can take it.
Oh really? Okay.
And you know, Sterling's always said, you know, we won't stop till we get it right. You know, and there'll be countless prototypes, and we'll have so many conversations and really think things out. And I've worked really closely with the engineers until we get it right. I mean, you're talking things that are like, you know, 1/8 of an inch here, or you know, just try. They even did something which was brilliant, trying to figure out one of the guitars where they like 3D printed something and put it on the guitar and move it here. Like, there's these unbelievable processes that go. With the original Majesty, on this one you see the shield in the front. That's the figured maple.
Yep.
The original one had a laser etched
shield
finish to look like a carbon fiber top.
Yes, I remember that guitar.
Right,
yes.
because it was modeled off of a car that I loved.
Right.
And what they went through to come up with the idea to laser etch the basket weave of carbon fiber, stain it, sand it, and you look at it and you're like, how is this not carbon fiber? It's actually maple.
Yeah.
So yeah, we all go down the rabbit hole together. We have great lengthy conversations about guitar building and art and technique, and you know, I send pictures of my hand on the thing and an angle of my wrist and how can we do this, change this. So I don't think that's going to stop. You know, we'll see where it goes in the future. I still have ideas. It's all fun, and they're right along with me and facilitating it, which is, to me, you know, I'm just so grateful for that.
Yeah, and it's refreshing to hear that you are just pretty much every step of the way in the design of it. So it's like, it's almost as if you're the one initiating a lot of what's
I mean, I'm the one
on.
playing it ultimately, like, you know, and, you know, let's not make any mistakes. I don't build the instruments. I'm not in there buffing guitars.
Sure.
Or I'm not in there programming you know, to do the drawings or the engineering.
Right.
That's not me. I know nothing about that. And I give all the credit to all the talented people at Ernie Ball Music Man. But all the ideas of like how this feels on my body, you know, I can't reach this fret, you know, whatever. This is, my thumb feels funny here. Oh, why can't this be here?
Yep.
Oh, I played live the other day and I noticed that this thing is sticking into my, you know, whatever. Yep. Those are all coming from me, and they're coming from, again, these really practical situations where I'm either on stage or I'm in the studio and I'm experiencing something.
Yep.
And, I have to pinch myself all the time that I not only do I experience it, but I can actually make a phone call and say, hey, could we change this? Could we look at this?
Sure.
Could this piece be rounder here and not
Yep.
so square? Could we do this? Could we change the pickup? I don't know what the equivalent is. You get into a car and you're like, oh, this is great, but if the steering wheel was just like a quarter of an inch smaller, it'd be better for my hands. Who has the opportunity to do that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's great to be able to have that kind of relationship.
It's amazing.
Where you're able to tweak that. But also the good thing too is that, it doesn't just stay with just as a 6-string. And because I should note that these two models also are available as a 7-string.
Very good point.
Which is important. And again, I have to imagine, because I'm not a 7-string player.
Yeah.
There's no secret there. But obviously the feel and everything has to be additionally dialed in.
Right.
Having 7 strings now, because that takes on a whole new way of engineering that guitar. And
yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that. Like, I mean, you probably had to play a bunch of 7 strings just to get that right, just to make these 20th anniversaries.
Well, here's the interesting thing about that. First of all, that was one of the things when I joined Ernie Ball Music Man in the beginning that I really wanted to do was have a signature 7-string guitar, because I was playing more and more 7-string, and it was important to me, and I had, again, these different, needs that I wanted to express. The incredible thing is that I never had an issue with, or I should say really they never had an issue with creating a 7-string guitar based off of the 6-string model. So it's actually not as if they had to just rethink everything.
Right.
It's kind of just like, I don't want to overly simplify it, but add another string, a wider neck, new pickups, different bridge, and you have it. And it just kind of converted really easily. It wasn't like we had to make all these changes and everything. So honestly, once the 6-string, I guess what I'm trying to say, once the 6-string was figured out, the 7-string was just, it fell right into place. Yeah, and I knew, it wasn't even the type of thing I really, in the future, had to even check up on.
Yeah.
Well, let me make sure that 7-string is going to be okay. It's just like, no, it is. It's just, it is going to be okay. It's perfect. So that's probably, I would say that probably has to do with the engineering of the instrument and just their expertise and how they know how to build guitars and knowing it's going to work.
And I think, you might have been, if I'm not mistaken, probably one of the very, very first guitars that they made as a 7-string.
Yeah, I was.
So you probably were, right?
Yep.
Do you find yourself playing a lot more 7-string lately, or do you just bounce between the two?
I find that my ratio of 6 to 7-string hasn't changed too much over the years. I play mostly 6-string.
Really?
Yeah, and the 7 is kind of interspersed. Like on a particular album, there might be 2 7-string songs or 1 7-string song. Or my solo album had 1.
Right.
New Liquid Tension, I think, had 2. You could go back and look at Dream Theater albums. Depending on how many songs we have, it might be 1, 2, or 3, but the majority goes to 6 for whatever reason. Yeah.
Now, not to take away from this, but
Yes.
But a little birdie has told me that you are possibly in the works of adding another string.
Adding another string.
Which is
always fun.
Which is amazing to me, and again, I'm like, when will it ever stop?
Right, exactly. Give me more strings. Well, I never thought it was fair that other instruments had more range, right?
Right.
Keyboard, piano, bass, 6-string bass, all these guys going down. Come on, I want to join the party.
Yeah.
So that's sort of the way I approached the whole 7-string was, I have more range here. It wasn't really like necessarily a stylistic thing. Like I want to play this certain kind of 7-string music.
Right, sure.
I just want more notes, to be able to go down. So same thing with the 8. Okay. I never played an 8-string before. It's not like I was drawn to 8-string music, or I don't know. I didn't really think that way.
I mean, I can't imagine. I don't know what 8-string music is.
Right, exactly. I don't want to pigeonhole anything, so I wouldn't even say that.
Yeah.
But I was just like, it'd be fun to have more notes.
That's an interesting way of thinking.
Yeah, exactly.
That's coming out of left field for me.
Well, because sometimes, like, think about if you're playing a riff on a standard tuned 6-string, and it's in C sharp, and you're playing metal and you're like, oh, this riff would sound so much, if I can go below and, you know, get an octave C sharp and then a B below that, this riff would sound so much cooler.
Yeah.
But on a standard tuned guitar, you can't do that,
Can't do it,
you
right.
know? So the 7 allows you to do that. And of course,
Yep.
you can change the tuning and go even lower. And the 8, well, I'm pointing to it as if it's good. The 8 allows you to, you know, do that
Yeah.
even further.
Yeah.
And play in certain keys and play some notes and things that you wouldn't normally be able
do.
to play and have a different tone. So that's a long answer to your, you know, the little birdie was
Yes.
true, was right. So we are in development of an 8-string Majesty.
Wow.
And
Okay.
in fact, on the new Dream Theater album that will be out later this year, there is a song on it that I wrote with an 8-string. So that's the first time you'll hear it.
Wow.
And it was a lot. It was really a lot of fun. And I probably told this story before, but I kind of have this like spirit of adventure.
Yep.
When back in the day when I got my first 7-string, I never played 7-string before. I got it, came to the studio. We were writing the Awake album back around 1994. And I picked it up. I was like, cool, put it on. And we wrote a song called The Mirror and Lie, which is on the album Awake. And I just thought it was fun to like, it's almost like seeing a movie without having any preconception.
Yep.
You're like, I don't know if you're one of those guys that like wants to know all about it or just be surprised.
No, I'm the guy, like, I was like, I don't want to hear anything. I want to be totally surprised.
Right,
I just
exactly.
Want
So that's my approach with more strings.
Yeah.
I just want to be surprised. So the 8-string came and we were, you know, in the studio and wrote a riff
just pops out.
on the 8-string, and that's what's on the album. So it's so much fun. And to me, there's no preconceived, like, I have to now play in this style because I'm playing with
An
more
8-string.
string. It's just like whatever comes out, just there's more range.
Yeah.
And it was so much fun. And anyway, people will hear that eventually.
How come you never experimented with, say, doing a different body shape, like, say, a V or an Explorer shape?
Yeah.
Something like that. Was it just because this was comfortable, or maybe you did try it and maybe it just wasn't you?
Yeah, I think the best way to describe that, to answer that question is just those guitars don't feel good to me. You know what I mean? Like we've been talking a lot about just having the instrument really get out of your way, be ultra comfortable, you know, just ergonomically have everything right.
Yep.
And to me, having a guitar where you had a split happen between your leg and, you know, or just weird geometry or angles that slid off your knee or something. I don't know. Or you can't play like sitting back. It just never interested me. I was like, I think like those shapes are cool for certain people.
Sure.
And there's certainly something about them that looks really badass. And, you know, maybe I'm just nerdy. So that could be part of it too. But like just comfort factor.
Yeah.
What feels really good? You know, if you're going to be sitting there for hours at a time playing, what feels really good?
Yeah.
And you know, I've tried guitars with odd shapes, and you know, picked one up. I'm like, this feels like so bizarre to me. You know, the headstock's leaning down to here, and like I said, it's sliding off your leg. You can't figure out. These are all the things I tried to like address in these. So all those non-traditional shapes never really interested me.
Yeah, and I, you know, I'm somewhat agree with you. I mean, I've had so many guitars, and I still do, but I think you've hit it kind of on the head, because that's how I kind of feel about them as well. It's like I feel those kind of shapes are really meant to be stage guitars, right?
Yeah.
They just stand out on stage. It makes it actually just it brings your eye to them.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to when, as you know, as a player, as you say, you want to sit down, you want to be able to. They feel clunky. They're.
That's a perfect word.
No.
When you were describing it, I was thinking of clunky.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to play a clunky instrument.
Right. Right. Which, like I said, like if you were coming here and you had a new Explorer shape, I would not be sitting on that couch.
Right.
playing
Exactly.
It would be very weird.
And as we started the conversation, you know, a lot of like my requests and needs and desires are very sort of typical. Like they're, you know, those things are they appeal to a specific player, and somebody's really into that thing. Like you can't say a bad thing about a shape like that.
Right.
You know, but I never kind of. I just want something that feels good. You can sit in classical position.
Yep.
And everything feels right and smooth, and you can sit there for hours at a time playing it, you know?
That's crazy.
Not sliding off your leg or
I
doing all these
understand.
weird, digging into your stomach, and, you know, your arm hurts because it's sharp.
I was always fascinated by that when we talked about your guitar collection and just guitars in general, that you'd never had any yearning for or particular love or just like for the classic instruments that most guitar players they lust after, like a vintage Strat or a 59 Les Paul or even a Gretsch and all those things. You're just like, nah, I'm okay. And it's funny, you're like one of the only guitar players I know that's like, well, because every guitar player that sometimes I've talked to before, they're like, well, I play this guitar, but I have a 59 Les Paul.
Right.
That I love, and I'm just like, okay, but you're not that guy at all.
I'm not that. Not only am I not that guy, but I'm embarrassingly illiterate with any of that stuff. People start talking about. I feel like they're talking about like, I don't know, some topic that I don't know of, even though I play guitar.
Sure.
It's like I never collected, vintage instruments or never really. I don't own any of those instruments.
Right.
I never did. I kind of I was always into the Super Strat style, like the double horn kind of thing. But once I got to be able to design instruments and do that, I don't know. I never had a yearning to do that. I never went to a store and bought one of those guitars you're talking about, like off the wall.
Yeah.
I missed that boat, I guess.
Well, the other argument would be a lot of other guitar players would say, well, I got that guitar because it has a different sound to it. Or the pickups have something to it. But again,
I get that.
But again, for the music that you write, I don't think you don't really need to look in that direction.
No, and I see where you're talking about. If somebody is playing a certain style and that guitar is associated with that style, and you get that sound from playing that guitar, I get that. But for me, I mean, I've always kind of played the style of music I play. I don't know. At a very young age, I was drawn to playing metal and prog, and made this weird Dream Theater-y music, and so I wasn't like longing to. I need that guitar to get this kind of traditional blues sound. It's like I just wanted the guitar to do what I heard in my head, which is what these things do.
Right.
Again, it's like I don't want to emphasize how humbled I am by being able to be in the position to I had these ideas in my head and I rebuild them. Like, it's just the coolest thing in the world. It's just beyond amazing.
The other thing I also found fascinating too, which I was when I also asked you about the idea that you have these guitars that like most players will say like I have this one. This one's my favorite guitar.
Right.
And I think if I remember correctly, you said you have your guitars littered all over the house.
Oh yeah.
And there's not anyone you sort of go like, well, that's my favorite. You just sort of, it's just like whatever's there, you pick it up and
they're all
all the same. They're all awesome.
You can't. They're like your kids.
Sure,
how can you have a favorite?
Except you have a lot of kids.
Yeah, right. Exactly. There's everything about the way that they build the guitars makes each one of them unique and special and beautiful. You might on one day to the next be you visually connected more with like, I like this kind of purple guitar today, whatever. And that happens for sure. But, it's a win-win situation no matter which one I pick up. Yeah.
So is it a cosmetic things like say like you said you have a stealth one, and also have the beautiful sunburst ones, and then just all different colors. You pretty much have every color out there. Is Is there a particular guitar that sort of you're like, oh, you know what, I'll just try that, pick that up today, or is it just, or you? I mean, you don't have one favorite, right? I mean, I'm angling for you to tell me your favorite.
What's my favorite? Well, I will say this. I will admit this. For the last few albums that I've done during this pandemic, because I did actually made more music than I've ever made within a year. Starting with my solo album, Liquid Tension Experiment, the new Dream Theater album. My Purple Nebula Majesty was the one like I would
use
always
most.
I would use most. And so it's just really, really gorgeous, and when you play it and look at it, it just gives you a great feeling.
I see. I understand.
There's something about the deep colors in it. But having said that, it's not the only guitar I used on those albums.
Sure.
But I would generally kind of grab that more.
But you know,
often.
it's interesting. Like you
Yeah.
talk to a lot of guitar players. They talk to they say like, this is my favorite guitar because it plays like this and it
I
sounds
know what
like
you're
that.
saying. Yeah.
But
Mine are aesthetics.
Yeah, yours is aesthetics, which
Totally.
is funny.
Because I'm sorry, I'm
No,
interrupting.
and what I'm saying is funny about that, but I think it's also really a testament to what Ernie Ball Music Man has been doing. Your
I was
guitars.
just going to say
They're
that.
just
Yeah.
consistent.
They all sound great, and they all play great.
Right.
So it's like it's like what mood am I? What does it feel like to look at it?
Right.
It's not like I prefer this one because it just has that feel. No, they all have that feel.
They all have that feel. Right?
But like today I'm in a darker mood, so I want to play the Enchanted Forest one. You know what I mean? Like, no, today is fun, so I'm going to play the color changing paint because I don't know what mood I'm in. I don't know. That sounds a little psychotic, but anyway.
Well, see,
it is aesthetic driven.
We're going on that idea. So
Yeah.
it's almost like as if you've been playing all these guitars, but you've never had really the opportunity to wear them down. Like most guys,
Right.
they have one guitar that they've worn down.
I totally
to like
yes.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, actually, what are your thoughts on saying like, not that they would do it, but say a relict model or something like that's worn or worn down finish? Have you ever tried something like that and say like, not for me, or you generally like the gloss?
It's not really for me. Yeah, I do. I like new shiny things.
New shiny things. I understand that.
At least my cars, because I like having new ones.
Right. That's it's a way of thinking.
Again, it's like I get it, and I know many guitar players that guitar is like been through.
It's got my blood and sweat.
Been through
and
wars
tears,
with them, and that's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
And to me, like they've all been through so many tours and albums and everything, and they probably never get to that point though, where it's the one and it's worn down, and
Now that you're looking towards the future with more of your guitars, has there any other, like, say, cosmetically, is there anything else that you are looking like, or do you look at, say, something you find inspiration in art or something else that maybe like I need to go for that in the next Majesty or the next Petrucci?
We've been doing that along the way. When I started at Music Man, and Sterling was the person that I was always in contact with, and we designed these guitars through, including up to these.
Yep.
We'd have conversations about that all the time, and the look and where we can go. And then as his sons got more involved, as Brian became the CEO and Scotty became head of the Music Man division, he played more a role in that too. And so he's presenting lots of ideas. He presented that Purple Nebula idea.
Wow.
A lot of this was all them. I saw this for the first time. We had many conversations about what we could do, how far, what should we do with the 20th? Where can we take it? We talked about all these different things, but ultimately this is something that they came up with and presented to me.
Wow.
So we think about it all the time. We're inspired by nature a lot, by space,
Sure.
by cars,
Yeah.
things like that. And all that stuff crosses over. And, you might have a finish that reminds you of like the deep blue ocean, or, in the case of the purple one, it was the nebula, or something that looks like the Northern Lights, or something that looks whatever you've seen on a car that you were blown away by.
Wow.
So all those different things.
That's cool.
Yeah,
Very cool.
that's actually like a lot of fun, because there's so many places you can go with it.
Wow.
It's really amazing.
So last question, Ernie Ball Music Man acoustic?
As far as I know, they don't make acoustic guitars. So that would be up to them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering. Well, you never know. I was just saying you have a lot of clout.
Right.
over
We'll
there.
start an acoustic division.
Just wondering.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so stay tuned. I'm gonna have a couple more questions for John. And again, definitely check out these brand new 20th anniversary models from Ernie Ball Music Man, the John Petrucci 20th anniversary over here, and the 20th anniversary Majesty over there. I urge you to check them out. They play amazing. So, see you in the next video.